please call the roll.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Mr. President. The roll, Todd Hobler,
Here.
Lynn Lenahan,
Here.
I am here. Carrie Phillips,
Here.
Jeffrey Stone,
Here.
Susan Swartz,
Here.
Denise Wilson,
Here.
Albert Chu. Albert, maybe on mute.
Okay.
I think there is a question about the standing of a vote on the part of Albert. I'm looking at the bylaws, which say that the student trustee must be a registered student of Suny Erie Community College and in good standing, academic standing during his or her tenure of office. So we
Right, I
appreciate
think, Kate, what you read is correct, but I also understand, and maybe Bill, you can help verify that because of the COVID crisis and the uncertainty of student representation, both at the end of the semester and for the start of the next semester, my understanding is SUNY has extended the terms of the student trustees till September. Now, Bill, can you verify that?
Yes, Mr. Lenahan, and thank you. And Kelly just shared Kate questioning that as far as the bylaws. I indicated as soon as this meeting is over, I will get specific direction from SUNY, but that is my understanding that SUNY allowed those students to continue even though they were not a matriculated student until the September meeting because student government could not hold elections in person. So I believe that is factual, but I will verify it and I'll send out a communication to the entire board soon.
Well, it makes total sense, and I just wanted to make sure that we were in compliance with our own bylaws. And of course, Albert, we value your input and are delighted that you're still part of the SUNY Erie family. So with that, Mr. Chairman, we do have.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the agenda under item number 2, SUNY contracts. We have a series of contracts here that I think, Bill, are you bringing these back to the board after a previous agreement understanding, or is this a fresh, are these contracts just ready to be approved?
I will give a very brief overview of every one of the contracts. They're all somewhat time sensitive, as well as all have now new language recommended by our county attorney having to do with the COVID-19 situation and liability concerns and ensuring that our contracts provide some liability protection as we move forward, especially like with Star Swimming and the Rally Niagara. As we have people on our campus, we want to make sure those organizations are following all the protocol by federal guidelines, CDC, as well as SUNY and county guidelines. So some are just adding, the first two are just addendums for new legal language that will be part of every contract moving forward. But I will provide a very brief overview. Some are time sensitive as we transition from summer into the start of classes. But quickly on the Star Swimming contract, that is an existing contract. Their current contract expires August 31st. This is just an addendum to add that COVID-19 related language. We will be back in front of the Board of Trustees at the August meeting for an extension. Athletic Director Mullen is currently negotiating a new contract with them, but I will highlight that because of the shutdown, we lost over $33,000 in rentals from Star Swimming because the Flickinger Center was closed. Right. And we lost the opportunity to share in 4 swim meets that were previously scheduled. So we did take a financial hit on the revenue side because of COVID-19. It's just an addendum for the language recommended by the county attorney. Second item is rally.
I have a question. I have some questions on this item. So it looks like this is a 5-year contract that's being finalized now. But the last contract, we got only 4 annual payments in 16, 17, 18, and 19. So is it true that we only received 4 annual payments for a 5-year contract?
We have been getting payments this year. I'm not sure what you're looking at, Kate. I don't have that in front of me. So if you could share a document that you're reviewing, I will.
I'm just looking at the MOU, and it says that, the former one is that we received payments in 2016 of 43,000, 2017 of 44,000, 2018 45,000, and September 1st, 2019 46,000. So, but it's a 5-year contract, so I'm wondering why there were only 4 payments, and if that was intentional. And then my other question is, as you're negotiating this and finalizing the contract, please be sure to use gender neutral language, because if I see one more thing about the president and his designee, I'm going to burst. Second, what are the actual costs? So in the past, we have these, I would like to know what the actual costs have been for our participation with the swimming program. And because I think our costs are going to rise because of the needs of COVID, I want to get a sense of what it was before and then how much more it's going to cost to do this, in a smart and effective way. So as you're negotiating this contract, I just would like to see what our actual costs were before, and then what we're projecting our increased costs will be due to the increased safety precautions we need to take because of COVID.
We will certainly keep that in mind. Steve Mullen, are you on the call, I believe?
Yeah, Bill, I'm here.
Can you address Trustee Masiello's first comment about the payments, and then secondly, take in consideration what you indicated as far as the negotiating for the contract that will be forthcoming for effective September 1st of 2020?
Sure. I'll do the best I can. Yeah. So we haven't received our full 2020 payment yet, the 1920 payment, because the second half, so we would have received the first half in the fall. The second half would have been due to come to us in April. But at this point, we held off the second half payment because we weren't sure when we were going to be able to open up, and it would be easier just to prorate that second payment versus having to refund them at this time. So yeah, they paid for each year $1,000 additional increase each year. As far as costs, I'm getting a lot of feedback here, but as far as costs, so our costs with them, as far as personnel costs, for any meet that they host, it's they pay for personnel fees, so we don't incur the costs on those meets from a personnel standpoint. And as far as their practice times throughout the year, they come in when we are open for memberships, and we have other events as well at times when they are in there. So it's hard to calculate that exactly, because we don't open up just for them. When we do open up just for them, like I said, or for meets, they do pay the additional personnel costs. But if you looked at our lifeguard costs, we're probably, for their practice time alone, we're probably between 30 and 35,000 in a year. But once again, they're not the only ones in there at that time. Does that answer your question?
I think we're going to have to do a better job of calculating our costs. So
Okay.
if you can take a stab at that, I'm not saying, I understand what you're saying, that there are other, but if we can prorate it somehow, I just think we really need to get control of and an understanding of what our costs are.
Okay.
And Kate, as Steve was talking, I just quickly read through the contract. The existing contract looks like it's a 4-year contract. The new contract is proposed to be a 5-year. So
Because it just is a new, yeah, when it said a new 5-year contract, I just assumed that was.
I did too when you brought it up and
Okay.
I started reading through. So
Thank you.
the payments, as Steve described, do make sense. We just didn't collect the second one for the current fiscal year.
Got it. Thank you.
So I will move on and please ask questions as I go through Rally Niagara Badminton. We have an existing contract that's a company or an organization that uses the Bell Center at North Campus. Their current contract expires August of 2024, and they currently, under normal times, pay $23,600 for the use of the Bell Center. Because of our shutdown, Steve estimated we lost about $8,850 in rental because the Bell was not available. Bell Center wasn't available for about 4.5 months. This is just the addendum that adds those language for the liability concerns due to COVID-19 moving forward. The third item.
Sorry again. Just
Yes, absolutely.
can we just request that again we get documentation of what this is going to cost the college, all in personnel, facilities, rental, electric, all of it, so that we just have, and for all these contracts, I think there should be an annual report to the board as a separate information item on what our costs are for all of these.
Certainly, we can work on that. Third item, I actually probably have that information for the third item because I did do some due diligence. So this is a sublease agreement between Suny, Erie, and Northland. It's entering the third year. It appears that the board may have approved contract once, but not the second time, or vice versa. But this is a one-year contract that allows us to provide instruction at Northland facility in our mechatronics program. Previously, we had a CNC program that we are no longer offering there, but our fall instruction at Northland will follow the same protocol that we're implementing on our campus. So we will have, for those labs, face-to-face, practicing proper PPE, and then it will be really hybrid, some face-to-face and some online. So I looked at the 18-19 data because 19-20 is not complete. We generated $428,000 in revenues from tuition fees, and then part of the contract provides a 50% split of the net profits, and the net profits are defined, although it doesn't talk about personnel, but that was part of the calculation. Our net share was about $75,000 in net profit for 18-19. Again, 19-20 is not completed, but there are certainly many positives from this program. We do not believe that it's impacting our mechatronics enrollment at our North Campus. We believe we are hitting a new market that probably did not go to North Campus for the program. For 18-19, we had actually 33 graduates of the program, and 24 were placed in jobs immediately. The average salary for those individuals was $18.64, and we demonstrated a 73% persistence rate from fall to spring. Half the students were African American Black students, so we are serving a big need in the minority community at the Northland facility, and over 70% of the students were over 25 years old. So we're seeing students coming back and trying to upscale their jobs. So it's a great program. I give a lot of credit to Doug and his academic team. They put together some great information for me that I think was able to share.
I have a number of questions about this, sorry.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, first, I want to say at the outset, I think this is a great program, and obviously we are all in at SUNY Erie for helping our students upskill, and that this is a fantastic state-of-the-art facility, and we're lucky to be able to be part of it. My first question is, was this contract subject to the 20% across-the-board cut in contracts that our budget is predicated upon? And did Northland agree to that?
It's a share of net revenue, so there's no cost that we're spending. The only cost that we spend is on the salaries for faculty. It's not a rental.
It says the rent to be paid by SUNY Erie is 50% of net tuition receipts, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is that tuition that these students pay as well as the full-time support provided by New York State for these students?
Yes, absolutely.
So that's what we're paying. And is that 50%, is that been renegotiated to be now 20% less with the contract?
It will be because the language in the contract is 50% of the net profits. Net profits are defined by what we get in state aid. Right now, the state aid will be at 20% reduction.
Okay.
Just like our tuition rates going up by 3%, that will be factored in, as well as our technology fee. So that will be factored into the calculation.
So given our current enrollment projections, do you have a dollar figure on what this would cost? What we expect it to cost?
Well, I would suggest that it's not necessarily costing us anything. It actually generated net profit for 18-19 of $75,000. So
Yeah.
it's not gross margin. That's net. The total net was 150,000. We split 50% with Northland, and then the residual stayed within the college's operating budget.
And are we able to change the Megatronic courses offerings that are listed in the agreement without penalty? I mean, because there are some specific courses lined out there, and if we should change that, is that a problem? I mean, do we have that right?
I would ask Doug to comment, but anytime we change the courses within an academic program, it has to go through a review process, both internally and externally. So it's not something we would just want to change, and we have to go through.
Obviously, I mean, I think all of these programs that we offer, we need some analysis on what the enrollment is and how persistent students are being in it and how successful it is. So I just want to make sure that we're not locked into something that we might, and I realize it's only a year contract or an extension, but I just think we need to keep our options open. My next question is that Northland provides high-performance leadership training free of charge to our faculty and staff who are working with students at the Workforce Training Center at Northland. So I'd like to know how many, if you don't have to give me this now, but I would like you to share with the board how many of our faculty, staff, especially including our guidance counselors, have participated in this training. And then I see that, Northland students don't pay an application fee for our online application. And I'm wondering if there are any other groups of students who don't pay that fee. So just trying to get a sense of cost. And, I'm hoping that in our enrollment report that's coming up later, we'll be able to see budget projections broken down by student type, those who pay full tuition, those who, like at Northland, do not, those who are at Pathways, those who are involved in the high school program that they do not, so that we can see what's coming in from different groups, because they're not all paying the same.
Well, I would suggest that SUNY regulations require us, depending upon the type of student, to charge the same tuition. So in county, it's the same rate. High school has a discount up to 1/3. Any non-credit does not pay tuition. As far as Northland, I believe it's only the application, otherwise they are paying full tuition. I doubt that our college and high school students are paying an application fee, but I don't know that for sure, because I've not been here that long to know everything, but I suspect that there are groups that don't pay certain fees. Obviously, the high school students don't pay a transportation fee. So there's certain things that those specialized populations do not pay. But as far as tuition rates, if you're out of county, you pay our tuition rate. If you're out of state, you pay the double tuition. Northland pays the full tuition. Everyone's eligible for financial aid. It's just really the high school students that pay that discounted tuition and non-credit.
And the Pathways, they pay full?
No, they pay no tuition. That's non-credit.
Oh, non-credit, okay.
Non-credit. And, to your point about splits, we split the state aid through that program. Similar to the Northland's agreement, we generate non-credit FTEs. Non-credit FTEs do not pay tuition. They do not pay fees. We generate state aid based upon the non-credit FTEs, and the agreements we have on the Pathways, for instance, is we come up with the total state aid that is generated. We take out our shared costs from that pie, and then we split 50-50. Very similar to Northland.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. The next item is Campus Clear Agreement. This is a partnership that's started with 2 universities and a private company that specializes in creating, through artificial intelligence, these chat boxes. And it's a free service that's being offered that it's a really intuitive mobile app that we want to roll out as part of our reopening plans, because right now we're screening as people enter the building. As we more and more students and staff coming on campus, that will not be manageable. So this is an app that we'll be able to use, and we'll have some questions that staff and students have to complete ahead of time in order to gain entry onto our campus. And we think will fill a great need as we see students coming on campus and staff. And plans for staff is starting to come on campus much more robustly. We have a little discussion as part of our informational meeting about our reopening plan, but this will help us to address any concerns of staff coming on campus, that they're being tested and validating that they're healthy before they step on campus. And I think it's not necessarily the same product, but there are many companies that are using something similar, that employees, before they come to the workplace, have to complete an online questionnaire. And if they don't complete the online questionnaire, they are not permitted to come on to the workplace, in our case, campus.
Students too?
That's the plan.
So, and the plan is, because here it says the user could present this pass at an entrance point to a college official. I mean, should we make it shall? And my question really is, what are we doing with that information? Aren't there HIPAA laws? Don't we have, I mean, so I'm sure that's very complicated and that you guys have a headache with all this. But
our county attorney has reviewed, there is a whole thing of confidential language part of the agreement that the county attorney is reviewing. It's very new, Kate.
Sure.
Probably don't have all the answers, but we are going to start piloting as soon as possible, as soon as the board approves the contract and the county attorney approves it, and then we will roll it out. Give us sort of a month to roll it out just for staff before we get a robust number of students coming on campus. But I think next Thursday is the first day that some of those student service offices are going to be open for remote management services. And we're hoping all those students, we're encouraging everything by appointment. So we'll have a controlled number of people coming back on campus. So it's something that hopefully works well. And your comment about confidentiality was my immediate concern when I first read it. We have protection on that because, as you know, information gets out there. So we are making sure our I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
and is this something that the document itself, I didn't see it in my materials. I don't know if I was missing it. I just got the executive summary. So I'm just wondering if that was something we were expected to review. I would expect so, since we're approving it.
I will, Nina, do you have something more than just the executive summary on this? I know I've read the confidentiality agreement, but Nina, is there another component of the contract that we can share with the trustees?
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
What if the student does not have a working smartphone?
We will still accommodate students when they arrive on campus, Albert. I get tested every day when I come
Will they still
on
be
campus.
required to do a
Yes.
for campus?
Yes, we will still be manning the posts as students and staff come on campus. We are trying to alleviate the backlog. People may be standing in line. Right now, it's not a problem because our campuses are essentially not open. But we will make accommodations, Albert. We will not turn away a student or a staff member to this campus unless they are demonstrating some level of illness, or they were exposed, or they have a fever.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I will continue. Please interrupt or let me know if you have questions. The Suny Erie internship agreement is just a boilerplate that has to be added to make sure all our students are protected, and when they're going out to clinicals, et cetera, that they are protected, and there's necessary language to protect not only the college or student, but also the clinical location they're in. Nelnet and Skillsoft are two contracts.
Sorry.
Yep.
So the internship language, I have a question about that. The guidance from Suny said that campuses should receive affirmation from partner sites that interns are receiving the same PPE and safety instruction as staff. And so on page 24 of those recommendations, it gave us some sample language, which is not included in this contract. So I believe that the language on page 24 that says, you know, that our students are going to get provided all appropriate personal SUNY interns, and I would add the language, and that our interns are receiving the same safety instructions as staff, needs to be included so that we are protecting our students who are generally, you know, a lot of interns are going into medical programs. So I don't know why the language didn't include that recommendation from SUNY.
Leslie, could you comment and or offer a recommendation if we could make a change that the board approves subject to that change that Trustee Masiello indicated?
Sure, I can take a look at it and we can add that language. I know there's the suggested language in the guidelines.
Yeah, the section 4 was incorporated, but not section 3. So I'm wondering why, particularly when in this day and age with PPE and safety requirements being at the top of mind, that we didn't include that.
Well, it can be included. I can take a look at it and definitely include it, sure.
Just an aside question, it says the contract talks about students that are dismissed. If student is dismissed from an internship program, do they get credit from SUNY Erie, or is that automatically doesn't happen?
They do not get credit for the course that they're dismissed.
That would be my assumption. I just wanted to make sure.
And the next two contracts are what we call piggyback, where we're sort of coming as another entity onto an existing contract. The first is actually a contract with Nelnet for some e-commerce solutions for our students. The board previously approved a specific contract with Nelnet for the student payment solution. This is some additional services that Nelnet provides. This one that we're targeting is in the area of cashiering. We are basically completely manual, making students come to the bursar's office in person. So this will allow our students 24/7 access to cashiering functions and will improve our internal controls. There is I believe, an initial $3,000 cost for installation of this platform, and then a monthly fee of $2,000 going forward. An offset is once we are operational, we'll be able to eliminate the PayPal account right now that we're spending about $12,000 annually. So there's a small incremental cost, but we'll be able to service the students much more effectively, efficiently, better controls, and reallocate/redeploy staff that are sitting at the window waiting for students to come, use them in another means of servicing students more effectively. And then the last contract for consideration as far as piggyback is actually a contract the county has with a company called Skillsoft. It's for employee training. There are certain trainings that are required of all staff at this institution, and this allows us to track all trainings, required trainings, and have the supervisor remind their reports that the training is a requirement and get deadlines. So it's a very robust process. It's a 3-year contract. Again, it's following the county contract, the $15,740 per year for each of the 3 years. And it's something that every college struggles with, tracking the training that employees are doing, making sure we're complying with all the federal and state guidelines as far as training.
Bill, this is Denise. I'm wondering if that was something Workday could do.
I don't believe so, Denise, but I would turn to our resident Workday expert to answer that question. I'm not naming names, but I hope the expert speaks up.
Thank you, Bill. Denise, we will be integrating that with Workday. Workday itself does not have the cashiering feature, so it will be tightly integrated. So students will not see any difference. It's going to flow back and forth from Nelnet to Workday and other way around.
I think Denise was asking about the training.
Yeah, the training portion.
Does Workday, because we're entering into this contract for Skillsoft and tracking
I'm
training,
sorry.
is that a function of Workday?
Sorry, I was on Nelnet. Okay. Yeah. Workday does not provide the training, but there are other options that college could explore. HR feels very comfortable with this, and college has been using it. It's pretty easy to use, and success rate has been very good. So, yeah, that's not something that Workday provides.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mina. And that concludes the 7 contracts for the board's consideration. There's one other item that we're requesting your approval on, and that's something that we discussed as part of the budget approval process was an extension of the early retirement incentive. The board previously had approved a dollar amount to allocate for faculty, administrators, and senior executive staff for early retirement. For the dollars that were allocated, there were 14 faculty that participated. Their total salaries were $1,224,000, and the payout for the early retirement incentive was $612,000. There were another 16 faculty members that had made an inquiry and requested consideration, but as the funds were depleted, they were not allowed the opportunity to participate in the incentive. This resolution would allow us to extend that early retirement incentive to those 16 individuals and allow them to retire prior to the end of our current fiscal year. So we generate savings for next year. Those 16 had salaries of $1,289,000, and the expected payout would be $566,000. I give a lot of credit to both Tracy and Hoffman for opening up dialogue immediately when we started talking about this with Andy Sacco, the president of the Faculty Federation, and Elizabeth Renaud, the NYSEG rep. We came to an agreement because there was a sense that if we didn't extend it to everybody, that we could have a situation. So the agreement is that we're extending this additional funds just to those 16 that originally made application. And then we will do a round 2 as prescribed under the original resolution for next year. We have given those 16 72 hours to confirm. So we want to make sure that we have faculty in the classroom to provide the courses for our students. And as of yesterday afternoon, and Dan and or Tracy could add any additional, but as of yesterday late, at the end of the day, we had 9 of the 16 that had confirmed that they would like to participate. We've also opened up discussion with the Administrators Association, CSEA, and asked me about a potential retirement incentive for the fall of 2020. And that would then start generating savings starting in the spring of 21. And the good thing, especially for the teaching faculty, traditionally our spring courses are anywhere about between 80 to 84% of our fall course schedule. So it would lend us that opportunity to not have to replace each and every faculty member that may participate.
Is there any money left from the county for this? Or we depleted all that in the first round?
The county ended up not providing any funds for that. If you recall, before I arrived, that when the county had their financial situation having to do with the state budget, they made some changes, and one of the changes was they withdrew their support for the college's incentive that they had previously said they'd be funding. So the college self-funded that incentive. So there is no county money associated with this. do have a 1 o'clock meeting with the county executive. I am certainly planning on, part of my list is to pitch him a few things, and there's going to be a pitch, may not be a fastball, but I will certainly bring this up again. It helps us financially. I have the data as far as the number of staff and the age, because the age, we have an opportunity to start changing the culture of this institution. And this is, yes, it costs money, but it gives faculty and staff the ability to maybe push them to where they want to get to. And then we have the ability to start reallocating things that we've talked about, redeploying staff and not refilling all the positions and going about hiring more strategically.
And you said if there's money left over, we would be going beyond the faculty to other unions?
Yeah, I mean, the faculty, from a purely financial perspective, Kate, the faculty provides the biggest savings. Administrators next, and then CSE and ASME. And from an employee morale and what's fair, you have individuals in CSE and ASME that have spent an entire lifetime at college.
But there aren't our unions, are they?
They are absolutely, they're part of a county-wide union, but there's a local for the college, so they have local representation. One of the first things Tracy immediately did before we started discussing that is to reach out to the county to make sure we could offer an incentive to our local CSA and ASME, and they had no problem with that.
It's not, I mean, is it advised? So it can be done. Are they advising that we should do it?
They are advising, if we want to fund it, go right out and do it. They are not taking a position other than we can do it just for our college employees. So there will be savings. The other sort of wild card that is, and I think I mentioned it previously, there's some legislation that's floating about a state incentive, and the state incentive is pretty, it's still in the formulation stages, but there have been a bill that's being advanced that would allow people to retire without penalty, because right now, depending upon your retirement system, you have to be at a certain age to retire without penalty. So part of the legislation would allow individuals to retire without penalty. So somebody theoretically at 55 could retire without penalty. But it also provides for those individuals retiring to get 1 additional month of service for every year of full-time service, up to 3 years. So theoretically, this person could get 36 months additional service time upon retirement if they've been at the institution for 36 years. That is something that will have to be analyzed as far as cost benefit. The good thing about the language is either or. They can't get the college incentive and also get the state incentive. The state incentive, though, is a state incentive, but a local employer has to take official action to opt in. So this board, if the decision was made, we would have to pass a resolution to actually opt in. The state cannot force that.
Bill, I wonder if before we finalize the discussions on early retirement, we take approval for having a motion made to approve the first 7 items on the agenda that was involving the contracts. Unless there's other questions on these, I think we've covered them pretty well.
I think we need to table 4 and 5 until we get the new language and the actual proposal in number 4, and the new language that Leslie said she was going to include in number 5.
Okay, that's fine. So that's 4.
My recommendation. We table 4 and 5.
That's right. Okay. So we're going to move on items 1 through 3, and then items 6 and 7.
So moved.
Okay, so Kate's made the motion. Todd, you give me a second?
Second.
Somebody give me a second. Okay, so we got a motion made and seconded to approve items 1, 2, 3, and 6 and 7 on the open items. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So I think a voice vote's good on that, Kate.
Sure.
So let's finalize the discussion on early retirement. So Bill, let me just ask you this. So when all is said and done on what we're approving today, what is the potential total number of employees, once you took the first round and then rounds 2 and 3, if people retire before?
Round,
what are we looking at?
round 1, I believe in total was 23. You had 14 faculty, I believe 22. 14 faculty, 7 administrators, and 1 SES.
Okay.
And the 14 faculty, on average, 34 years of service, age almost 67. And so that was a total of 22. And this next sort of round 1A will be targeting just those 16 that did not participate. They couldn't because of all the funds were spent down.
And are they all faculty?
They are all faculty. Yes.
Okay. So in your discussions with Mark, the county executive today, you're going to again remind him of, even though the first $1 million from the county did not come to fruition, we're still try to get that if we can down the road.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Okay, any other discussions on the early retirement incentive? If not, so we're going to take page 27, correct? Resolution regarding Faculty Federation early retirement.
Correct.
Bill, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion.
Motion made by Trustee Hobler, seconded. I hear a second from Mrs. Schwartz. Jeff Stone. Anybody?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, motion. Okay, I'm seconded. Any other questions on the resolution before we move approval? If not, Kate, is this going to be a roll call or
I can do it by roll call. So for this early retirement center, I'm calling on Todd Hobler,
Approve.
Len Lenahan.
approve?
I will approve with a strong recommendation that we get the money from the county and not use cash reserves for this. Carrie Phillips.
I'll try.
Good.
Approve.
Jeff Stone.
Approve.
Susan Schwartz. Susan, you may be muted.
I'm sorry, I said approved.
Okay. Denise Wilson
Approved.
and Albert too.
Approved.
That's unanimous.
Okay.
Hey, can I just make sure I fully understand the number 4, the campus clear agreement? That is because you don't have the contract. They want to review the contract prior to approval, correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Amina, you're going to get that as soon as possible out to the trustees?
For number 5.
Correct.
5, that's something that.
5 is Leslie. I'm sorry. You're right. Yes.
Quickly, I'll just shift. Bob, if you can get up the 1920 enrollment. I would suggest that each and every month when the trustees get together, we will have an enrollment report. We're still sort of working on formatting. This information is as of this morning, and I really appreciate all the hard work. I think sharing the, is that up yet, Bob? I appreciate Doug and Fabio and Steve for working with me on trying to present something. This is not necessarily the format we'll arrive at, but that's the best we could do, being out of sort of commission for the past week as far as accessing certain files. But this gives a little picture of our 1920 enrollment, both on a credit and non-credit basis. The good news is that when we had done our budget July 6th, we had a projection of our final enrollment, and right now we're tracking about 98 FTEs above where we had projected for 1920. So when you go through the state aid calculation, and account for that 20% reduction that Kate mentioned before, we're looking at about $57,761 more in state aid next year. Our budget to actual for 1920, and I will caution 1920 is not finalized. We are in the second semester of our summer right now, and then our non-credit is not finalized. That takes a bit of time. But from budget to actual 1920, we're up 5.29%. And then looking just at credit, again, to Kate's point earlier, credit are those students that pay tuition fees. So that's something that we really focus on. Our credit enrollment went down more. Our credit enrollment budget to actual is down 6.79%. So again, this is a chart that will start tweaking as we go forward. And then the fall 20 numbers, Bob, if you could just get those up on the screen. This is the format that where it's available through Teams for the college, and it's just tracking fall 19, fall 20, and the key is this is point in time, meaning you look at the number of days before a start of a semester last year versus this year, so we have a true apples to apples comparison. When we were working on the budget, as you know, fall, we had projected 15% decline in both headcount and FTE. And prior to last Wednesday, we were actually tracking about 12% off. And then as of Wednesday, when our systems were sort of taken offline, we were not able to do a lot of the enrollment functions and registering students. So you will see right now that our headcount's off 17.26% from last year, and our FTEs are actually off 19.01%. But this data that Fabio and Steve and Doug are putting together, what I was able to do is look at the same period of time last year versus this year for those number of days that were offline. And when I sort of project what we should have seen compared to last year, we would be tracking only about 11% down year to year. So I comforted in our numbers that they will recover. So again, it's a point in time about, we're still, classes don't start until the first week of September. And then from a marketing standpoint, we are targeting our 20 programs are evening, weekends, including the online. We're really going to start focusing on transferability because in this uncertain times, as students start deciding maybe they don't want to go to away and take online courses, maybe only take one class in person, because that's sort of the sales pitch that's going out there to many students. We're going to pitch our transferability, all our articulation agreements, affiliation agreements, our affordability. It matches up to everyone within the area, certainly within Suny. And then we're going to focus on those high demand fields that are offering, after 1 year certificate jobs, just like the Northland Megatronics program. And then we have the ability to do all sorts of enrollment nudges, email, text, and phone. Finish your application, apply for financial aid, take the placement test, go to orientation, advisement, and schedule your classes and then pay bills. So there's a lot of ability through those remote applications. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the restart of on-campus activity starts next Thursday, August 6th. And we will make sure that all students and staff are properly monitored and have PPE. And we are hoping that all students make an appointment. We know that's not always the case, but we will accommodate those students safely and our staff safely. And then we are looking at doing as much as we can to a student self-service so they do not have to come on campus to complete that whole application registration process. So I think the numbers, although are troubling right now, but I think if we did not have the campus shutdown of our systems, we would be in a pretty good area, better than budget. So unfortunately, I have to say that it's good that we're only down 10 or 11%, but that is what all institutions pretty much throughout Suny are dealing with right now. Just there's a lot of unknowns.
I think the most troubling thing is the continuing students who continue. I mean, that's a big drop. I didn't, it's not in front of us now, but it looks to me to be, the crux of the problem. It continues to be. So what is being done to address that? I know you talked about targeted marketing, but that seems to me to be new students and enrollment and getting them to sign up. But what's being done specifically for those students that we have to help them persist and help to remove barriers so that they can thrive here?
Doug or Steve, do you want to address that specifically?
Trustee Masiello, we're actually doing a lot of marketing to our current student populations as well. A lot of the strategies that we employ for a new student audience are also really relevant to continuing students as well. So we have the ability to do Facebook marketing to promote our online enrollment opportunities. We have a number of communications that are getting queued up right now to our continuing student audience, focusing on upcoming events that we have. Our Share Day event, which is coming up. Well, we have two more of those. It's really a 3-day event. We have two more of those on the 12th and the 13th, and then our open registration events, the 31st and the 1st. So we're going to be communicating to our audience on those events. And but again, we're getting a lot of great help from many people. Our counseling unit's doing a lot to reach out to our students.
That's what I'm specifically interested in, because I don't think we have a marketing problem or an event problem.
Yeah, no, we're doing a lot of it right now is getting our hands dirty and doing that outreach. I'm sharing lists of continuing students with the faculty who have not yet re-enrolled. And we've got a good system in place there for those departments to do the outreach. One of the things that kind of a philosophical shift that we're trying to apply this year is our concept of share days or open registration really have to be considered every day. They're not special events. Right. Exactly. So the academic departments have been extremely helpful for us and have been very eager. In a day and age where we share documents that are live, I'm sending out documentation to our department administrators, and probably 2 minutes later, I'm seeing other people in those files, divvying it up, cutting and pasting it, and moving those things around and getting them into the hands of the department. So as we are doing our outgoing electronic-based communications, we're also having our more interpersonal activities happening with our departments. So they are reaching out to those students as well. Some departments are using text, others are using phone and email. It's whatever those departments are most comfortable with. But whatever it is, if somebody wants to do texting, they certainly know that we're here to get them trained and provide that opportunity for them.
Speaking of training, how many of our counselors have taken part of that Northland training that's free?
Of our counselors that have taken part of the Northland?
Because our faculty and staff are able to take advantage of leadership training and training and excellence for the students at Northland, who presumably take advantage of our counseling and our referral services. So
yeah, I'm not aware of any that have. That's something that we can absolutely look into.
And we should take advantage of every opportunity we have.
Yeah,
especially this is free of charge.
You're absolutely right. I was just going to say, in a day and age when our travel budgets are basically non-existent, we have to be looking for those opportunities to promote people. And I've always been big on trying to provide those opportunities to people that want them.
But we have to do it. I mean, we have to
mandate it. Yeah.
I mean,
early on in the pandemic, we really tried, again, as we were transitioning to online service delivery, one of the things that we did do was put together training opportunities for the staff to take advantage of, so that nobody was sitting at home idle as administration was really trying to figure out what the plan of attack was going to be. So we tried to keep everybody busy there and focus on professional development during that time. As we perhaps get into the very start of the fall semester, once the dust begins to settle at the end of September for these staffers, that would be something that we can absolutely focus on.
Yeah, this is Doug. If you don't mind, I'd like to contribute. With regard to that decrease in continuing students, that has ongoing has been a challenge. And interestingly, during the COVID time, up until a week ago, we were tracking ahead with new students. So the continuing students, one of the reasons that would drop is, of course, if you go back to when those students began, each year we have a decrease in new student enrollment up until recently, up until this year. So that should go down by sheer numbers, hopefully not by percent, by sheer number, as each incoming cohort has been shrinking. So there's that decrease. Of course, there's COVID, and then our recent difficulty in the last week with registration. However, all of these outreach programs, I believe, as we continue those, we have proof of concept that these work. I'll remind you that our fall retention number was up 1.6%. Our fall to spring persistence number was up 1%. And as of spring 20, our graduation rate, after being essentially level, is up 2.4%, which is tremendous. Global pandemic, and Suny Erie raises its graduation percent by 2.4%, which I think speaks to the redoubling of the outreach and support efforts of the faculty and staff. So I'm hoping as we continue those outreach efforts that Steve just talked about and I spoke about in May, that will not only recoup what we lost in the last week, but also support the students ongoing as well as through COVID to have our new students as well as continuing students at least hit budget, perhaps even better. So I have all anticipation, but the new news, by the way, this is a new piece of information. Our graduation rate is up. And I put that as the Suny Erie is awesome piece of information.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Great.
I just would also want to add to, as we get prepared for these events, and for our non-events that have really need to take on more of a daily mentality, that ITS has done an absolutely fantastic job of prioritizing the enrollment management areas to ensure not only that our staff are back up and running, that our computers are working sufficiently, but providing us also to looking for creative ways to provide us with the resources that we were looking for these actual events when they do take place on campus. So they could have easily said no,
Okay.
that it can't happen.
Okay, anything else on enrollment before we move on?
No, we're good.
Okay. Okay, so if not, what we're gonna do is I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session for a brief discussion.
So moved.
Motion made by Trustee Stone, second by Trustee Mazziello.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will resume the informational meeting shortly.
Mr. Chairman,
to discuss legal and contractual obligations, and no official action was taken. What's that? Move on.
Thanks, Kate.
Do you want to close the meeting, Mr. Lenahan?
Yes, we want to, the executive session has officially been adjourned. And we are open for the informational session. And first on the agenda is Steve Mullen. So if he can join us, that'd be great.
Motion. You want to make a motion to adjourn the regularly special board meeting, Mr. Lenahan, and then go into the informational meeting for the minutes?
I thought we did that.
Just adjourn the executive session.
Okay, I thought we did that, but okay.
We did.
Todd?
We did adjourn it, I thought.
Yeah, I thought we
Executive
adjourned it.
session. So now we're just reconvening for the informational meeting, right?
Yeah, right.
So I'll make a motion that we're going to reconvene into the informational education meeting of the 20th, or excuse me, July 30th.
Second.
All those in favor?